Hello, and welcome to I Hate Talking, a podcast about talking, including etymology, frustrating topics, current events, and other random subjects. I'm Adam.
And I'm Steph. We are married, and we invite you into these discussions with us as we talk about the good and the bad of talking.
We hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to episode 54 of I Hate Talking.
Hi, everyone.
So today's word or phrase is a very short word. It may be the shortest word that we've ever done. And hopefully we've never done this word before because I still do have a slight fear of doing a repeat word. And at some point, probably we'll go listen to all of our 53 previous episodes and record what word it was and have that as a database so that we can internally make sure that we don't have a repeat.
Right. It's going to get harder the longer we wait. We need to just do it.
Yes, that is true. It would be better to start that sooner. So today's word or phrase is apt.
Apt. Like I'm apt to do this.
Yes.
Not app. Like on our phones.
No, which that is not even a word. That is just a shortened word that probably would become maybe now used as a word.
It's going to be in
where
the new
it's like
dictionary.
application. But
oh, wait.
yeah, that's what app means, application. You have a phone application on your
That's
device.
crazy. No, really?
You didn't know that?
No.
What would it be if it wasn't an application?
It's an app.
Well,
I
you
don't
might be
question the phone makers.
you might be at TGI Fridays and ordering an app, which
An
is not.
appetizer.
Yes, it's
That's
a shortened
different than
form.
an app. See, that's why it's a different word. Appetizer.
Well, I guess you, our listeners, may be getting two bonus words because maybe we'll have to look up app, as in phone application, or computer application versus a appetizer at a restaurant. But the word we were talking about
Yes, okay. Let's refocus on this.
is apt, A-P-T.
What?
How would you spell the word apt?
What'd you just spell?
A-P-T.
Oh, okay.
Apt.
I thought you said APP, and then I was like, that is definitely a phone app.
Well, maybe you should have paused and listened to what I said because I said A-P-T.
But to answer your question, I definitely would spell apt. Like, are you apt? An aptitude test. Are you apt to do this? A-D-D. Apt.
I think you're getting your T's and D's confused.
Oh, no.
So.
And the poor listeners with all these D's and T's and P's, those aren't pleasant to hear. So sorry, y'all.
That is true. Maybe we have to mind our P's and Q's. Do you know where that phrase come from?
Yes, from the typewriter thing, or from like the early day printing, because P's and Q's look the same.
That is not.
And then they're like upside down, so then you don't know if you have a P or a Q.
That is not the etymology of mind your P's and Q's.
Okay, we're giving way too much away. We have lots more episodes to do.
All right. Well, let's see where we go with this one. So the word apt, and I guess it is in the word aptitude, but that is not necessarily the exact etymology of the word apt. So I think aptitude may be more of a modern use of the same root word.
Okay.
But apt does mean it is suitable or appropriate or able to do something, right? It has the particular attributes or skills or whatever the case may be to fulfill a certain role or activity. So a person can be apt, or a word could be apt to be suitable or appropriate in doing something.
Okay.
So this particular word comes from purely Latin, from the word appear, which means to fasten, and then that came to be used in the word aptus, which means fitted. So if you're fastening something, it is going to be fitted so that it is tightly fastened, and that came to be used in the late Middle English as apt, as in suited or appropriate, because it is fitting that word would become used in such a manner.
Interesting. But it isn't the same word. I feel like I often associate it as a shortened version of aptitude. Like you take an aptitude test to see if you are suitable for this career.
So, interestingly enough, the word aptitude is a different definition and it has a different origin. So,
Okay.
aptitude is the natural ability to do something. So, if you are particularly apt at a particular activity, then perhaps you have the aptitude to do that. But it basically means a natural tendency or suitability or fitness in able to do something. Now, it does have some of the same Latin roots. Aptus, which we just talked about, is fitted, but it also came to be used in a different Latin word, aptitudo, which means that sort of natural tendency part of the word. So it does come somewhat in the Latin, but then actually came to be used as a separate word in the Latin from that same root word, and then came to be used as aptitude in the Middle English. So whereas apt came straight from the word aptus in Latin. So there was actually that split happened in Latin, not in English.
Oh, there you go. So, am I getting it correct that aptitude would be more of a God-given natural ability, where apt could be that, or it could be like a training for it, whether you have to train and learn a skill or you just know how to do it.
Precisely. And I think also the word apt is more used in a general sense, that it's not necessarily a person, but it could even be a word, phrase, or thing that is apt to be used in a certain fashion. Whereas I think aptitude is going to be more related to a person or something that has a particular skill or natural tendency.
Okay.
So are we going to check on app and app as well?
If we want to have a triple header for this episode.
Well, I don't think we want to keep our listeners in suspense. So
Well, I don't want to be in suspense.
We'll at least check on the app and app. So app as in terms an application on your phone. I can't
it's
even
not.
think of a different. It's not just a word, app.
It is. Have you ever said, download this application?
Yes, I have.
Oh, well, I have not.
So app is a common abbreviation for application when referring to software programs, especially those designed for mobile devices.
But what's application mean? Because I feel like application means like you take something and you apply it to what you're doing.
So I think the way that application became to be used in software is more around logic. So in the very early days of computing, according to some of the brief research that I've done offline here, is that there would be punch cards or particular logic blocks that would be applied to particular computer problems or mathematical problems, and that these particular logic things then became known as applications, because you, as a computer programmer or a computer user, are applying the particular logic that the programmer has designed to solve a particular problem using computing resources or in order to do something with the technology. So that appears to be the sort of etymology in terms of application as it relates to computer software.
Okay. But can we say that probably in the future, app will be its own word then? Because it's so far removed. And that was probably in the 80s or whatnot, so long ago, that app is its own external, like actual thing now.
So our favorite Oxford English Dictionary, which we actually used the Merriam-Webster last time in our previous episode, but it does seem that the word app in the Oxford English Dictionary is not looked upon favorably by the English, because they specifically refer to this word as used in North American English. And it has this word as a computing term with regards to the application thing that we've been talking about.
So, are you saying that in the UK, they do not call the things that you download on your phone to open your email or whatnot apps? What do they call them? If that's a North American term. They're not widgets, which is a completely different thing. So what is it called?
They might just call it application. I will have to ask somebody in Europe next time I talk to them.
Yeah, when you do ask, did you download that? Because if someone told me, did you download the application? I would think, like, to apply for a job? What are you talking about? But if someone says, download this app, I'd be like, oh, okay, sure.
So we will have to keep our listeners in suspense because I will have to wait until I talk to somebody in Europe about that.
All right.
And then the app, as in terms of appetizer, does not really seem to have any particular etymology. It looks like just a pure shortening of the word.
Okay, but if you're reading it, I feel like, I think this is why I assumed app was a word. Because I feel like if you're talking about a phone app, it's usually capital A, capital P, capital P. But if you're reading the word appetizer, like let's order the app for happy hour, it's like APP, right? Lowercase letters.
No, I think both would be lowercase.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And it does seem that the more prevalent use of the word app is in reference to application and not appetizer. And then Wikipedia gives a third one where it is a shortening of the word appearance. So, for example, if Mike Trout made an app at a baseball game, that would be an appearance. I don't think I've ever heard that used anywhere, but Wikipedia says that that is a third shortening of a word that ends, therefore, in the word app.
Okay.
So I think that the most apt thing to do is, if you want to be explicitly clear, is to use the full word: application, appetizer, or appearance.
But I don't think so. I'd almost argue. Yes, for appetizer, but if you're at I think context counts too, right? If you're with your friends and you say, hey, you want to order an app, I wouldn't think they're asking me to pull out my phone to download something. I think they want to share some appetizers. But if somebody said, download this app, I think, oh, instantly they want me to click on this QR code and get this program on my phone. They don't want me to order nachos.
Yeah, I suppose you could use all three in a sentence. So if you're single out there and your date makes an app, it's time to download an app so that you can order some apps.
Okay.
So that is our word or phrase of the episode, apt. And that just came to mind because that was one of the words that I used in the previous episode to describe how pauses might be sometimes used and when may be an appropriate time to use them. Because if they are apt to be used, that means that they are fitting or appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, that was a long go around, but that was super interesting. I felt like I learned a lot.
So are we going to keep the suspense then for the etymology of P's and Q's?
If you want this just to be an etymology podcast, we can, because we can go on that. It's totally whatever you want.
Well, we've spent a lot of time on etymology, so I think it is time to move on. And if our listeners would like to hear about P's and Q's, you can tune in next time.
Okay, but to build suspense, you don't think I'm right on what I said.
No,
I do think I am.
It's not a matter of thinking. I know that there is a very specific etymology of P's and Q's, and it has nothing to do with the typewriter or the formations of the letters.
Not the typewriter, but like that, the original typing.
Are they on opposite ends of the keyboard? They're like as far apart as you can get.
Yeah, but like, no, the original print. Okay, I must have misspoke. the original time, like they created printed work. And they'd have to, I guess we are talking about this. Okay, we'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. So
I think I might have misspoke and you're taking it super literal, which Jefferson Fisher in his book talks about the importance of words and how important a word can be to change the entire outcome of a conversation.
that is very true. That is one of the reasons that we do talk about words and etymology on this particular podcast, because they are of great importance.
Mm-hmm.
So, P's and Q's, tune in next time. We've spent enough time on apt, apps, app, and app.
Oh, man.
So, one of the things that came up in our last episode that maybe we will touch on for the remainder of this episode is just narration and whether authors read their works differently, or if maybe particularly we have any favorite narrators that narrate audiobooks or podcasts or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was clear from the tail end of our episode last time that I do not particularly enjoy self-narrated works where the author is reading their own book.
You do not. I feel like we've talked about that maybe on the podcast a little bit before too. But yes, you have a disdain or disinterest in authors. And maybe you can remind us all of why, because you do have valid reasons why you dislike it.
Yes, so probably two main reasons come to mind. One is the speed at which they read.
Mm-hmm.
I've always found that authors that read their own works will read it faster. Now, this is probably because they are not trained narrators, so they do not necessarily have the exact particular temperament to read at an even meter or at a meter that is most appropriate for audiobooks. So it's a little bit of a inaccuracy in my mind, because if a book is presented as being 8 hours long, I can speed that up and listen to it at a more fast pace. But if it is a self-narrated work, I will not be able to speed it up at the same rate. So a quote-unquote regular book that is narrated by a trained narrator might turn in from a 8-hour book to a 4-hour book, but a self-narrated book might change from an 8-hour book to only a 6-hour book. So it will make a difference in terms of the time that I spend listening to a book as an audiobook.
Interesting. And on that, because I just don't know, maybe you do, I've always assumed the audiobook is word for word the same. Occasionally you'll hear them throw something in that's different, and they'll often acknowledge that from the written work versus the audio, because audio obviously comes after the written. But is it word for word? Because I know there's an event that, I mean, you and I both do, but that I do, that I have to write out something for and turn it in to get approval. And then I go speak it in front of a crowd. There's often a few sentences that I change the words when I'm doing it, not intentionally. And I do not think it's changing the meaning at all. It's just a more natural way I talk than what is explicitly written.
That is possible. I don't know if I've ever observed that with a particular audiobook that is read by the author. The other thing that I do notice with a author that reads their own work is that sometimes their inflection will actually not be all that good. So again, as a person that is not trained in narration, they may not have a lot of inflection or a lot of variability within their tone and speed and things of that nature. But there are the opposite end of the spectrum where perhaps the author, because they understand what they are reading and what they actually want to impart to the listener, they will have better inflection than a narrator. So that can go sort of both ways. Now, the interesting thing that you noted in terms of how perhaps maybe the written word is different from the spoken word is when I'm preparing something that is spoken, I will actually speak the written thing that I've wrote and adjust it accordingly.
Adjust it how?
If I run into a phrase or a word that makes perfect sense in the written word, but maybe seems a little bit off in terms of how it would be delivered in spoken form, I will make that adjustment.
Right. I think that's what I'm asking is often when we're reading something to have correct grammar or punctuation, it needs to be written a certain way. But when you're speaking it, if you spoke like that, it would sound odd. And I don't know if they have the ability and flexibility to change that when they're reading it out loud.
I would doubt it. I think that if a narrator was hired to narrate a specific book, they would not have that liberty to change
But what
words.
about the author who isn't hired and they're doing it? Do they have the ability and flexibility?
I would assume that maybe they would have that flexibility and ability, but I don't know if they would really necessarily pursue that because I think they would want to act in a way that had fidelity to the original work that they published in the written form.
Okay.
So that is some of the reasons that maybe particularly I do not like authors that read their own works. But I definitely have some favorite narrators. Sometimes I will buy a book just for the narrator.
Yeah. You want me to name him?
Well, I'm interested to know if it's the same narrator. This will be interesting. I don't know if we've ever talked about this.
We do, because you've gotten me books because of him.
Okay. Then
You've tried to convince me, like, you have to read it. Or, like, listen to this guy. It's so-and-so. Reads it. You don't know who I'm talking about?
Well, I know who my favorite narrator is. I don't know if we're talking about the same person.
All right. I'll look it up.
Well, I know it. You don't know it? I know him as, like, my personal friend, Ray Porter, the best narrator in the world.
I'm not on personal terms with him. No, me and Ray don't go way back.
Well, neither do we, but yes, I definitely know the name Ray Porter because he is definitely the best narrator that I have ever encountered by far. Ray Porter. So you can check out some of his works. There's a number of them that he narrates that are quite good. So,
are you going to name any of them?
Well, the one that we were just talking about as we were trying to arrive at the book that you enjoyed that was narrated by him was Project Hail Mary by Andy Ware, which was narrated by Ray Porter. So we can throw that one in the show notes as well. That was one that we both enjoyed, not only because of the content of the story, but because of the excellent narration.
Right. I mean, I don't know if I would have enjoyed the story as much without him narrating it. You told me about the book, and I wasn't interested until you said he was narrating it. And so I listened, and I did enjoy it. So I think narrators can make a big difference because of how they present the information. It can make it interesting or not.
Precisely. So that is one of our favorite narrators. There's some that Will Wheaton has done that are quite good. So The Martian, which was by the same author, Andy Ware. I think Will Wheaton also did the narration of Ready Player One and Ready Player Two. And the kids really enjoy Jack Black as a narrator on some of on the Minecraft book.
Jack Black has the Minecraft movie now, too, that we're going to have to go see.
We will probably see it at some point. There's a lot of mixed feelings on the movie itself in our household. So I don't know if we're going to spend the money to go see it in theaters. We probably will wait until it is available to buy or rent. What was that other movie that it was so good that we did not go see it in theaters because it was a huge flop? The Dogman movie.
The Dogman.
Oh my goodness. That was not a good movie experience. I'm not sure why that was, but it was certainly good that we did not spend all the money to go see that in theaters because I don't even think some of the kids made it through like the first 5 minutes and they said, this is dumb.
No, we bought it. We probably could have waited till it came out, but we did buy it to own. And yeah, they didn't like it. One of the Minecraft things in all, Jack Black's defense, some of our kids don't want to watch it because it's called a Minecraft movie, not the Minecraft movie. So they think it's a knockoff because it's not it's just a. And that's an importance of the word choice.
It is an importance of the word choice. So, well, I think this is a apt time to end this particular episode. But before we do, if you, our listeners, think that we, the podcasters, have aptitude at podcasting, we would like you to share this episode and this podcast with others that you also may think would enjoy it, and continue to listen, and perhaps next time we will mind our P's and Q's. So, from your friends at I Hate Talking, until next time, remember, it is only through talking that we begin the journey to understanding.